It was a car defect that led to the deaths of over 100 people, and one the government says General Motors knew of but kept to itself for a very long time.
Literally, the whole car is shaking, like you're going back and forth, vibrating the whole time.
Ultium Cells, a joint venture between GM and LG, faces more than $270,000 in penalties by OSHA.
General Motors, we believe in an all-electric future. Right now, it's winter in Michigan, and so I'm driving a Cadillac Escalade.
A defective battery inside the car has led to 9 bolt fires.
GM has since determined that the switches caused accidents that led to 124 deaths and 273 injuries.
Can't you just tell me in absolute terms, how much money do you need to survive General Motors from today until March 30th?
General Motors was a company that dominated the U.S. car market and pioneered their way to success, oftentimes reshaping vehicle segments that revolutionized how people could control raw American power, such as the invention of the Corvette, where in modern times it competes with cars like the Porsche 911 and Nissan GT-R, which are amazing cars but carry a hefty price tag. Thus, GM has arguably made the barrier for entry into a supercar more affordable. However, it's truly heartbreaking to see General Motors lose its way. Without a major shift, they're not just becoming one of the worst vehicle manufacturers, they're on the path to being one of the unhealthiest companies in the industry. They have the power to change, but the real question is, will they? The most heartbreaking and unforgivable of GM's failures is the infamous ignition switch scandal.
General Motors is connecting 7 more deaths to a faulty ignition switch on many of its cars. The automaker is now doubling the size of a recall, and as Jeff Bloor reports, the company admits it made mistakes.
Start the engine up, put it in drive, and as you're driving, if there's a heavy weight here on the key, it doesn't take that whole lot to actually turn that off. Once that happens, you can't start the car anymore. Worse, you lose your power steering. So you lose control, and if you're in the off position, your airbag's not going to deploy.
General Motors produced faulty ignition switches that affected millions of their cars, including models like the Chevy Cobalt. Compounding the problem, GM first identified the failure in 2001 during pre-production of the Saturn Ion. In 2004, GM recognizes the defect again as the Chevy Cobalt replaces the Cavalier. March and May of 2005, GM rejects a proposal to fix the problem because it would be too costly and take too long. By costly, they mean replacing a 57-cent part. July 29, 2005, GM's failure claims its first life. Throughout the years of the early 2000s, GM announces loss after loss, amounting in the billions of dollars. July 10, 2009, the U.S. Treasury purchases GM assets, giving the government primary ownership of the company. It wasn't until May, June, and July of 2014, GM finally decided to fix the ignition switches and recall millions of vehicles. It took 13 years, 124 deaths, and countless injured for GM to fix a 57-cent part.
General Motors' driverless cruise service is facing a fine for its handling of an incident in San Francisco. California regulators claim the company tried to cover up the severity of the event in which a person was dragged about 20 feet by a cruise robotaxi in October.
The mistakes of GM doesn't seem to stop. In March of 2016, GM acquired Cruise LLC. They are now GM's self-driving car unit, which so far has lost almost $3.5 billion as of 2023. The company is tasked with developing autonomous vehicles, where the proving grounds are the streets of San Francisco, Dallas, Houston, and Phoenix. The brand philosophy urges car owners to engage in shared ownership instead of individual ownership. But this project appears to be causing more problems rather than solutions. The Cruise vehicles have been reported by San Francisco Police Department and other emergency medical services that when they're attempting to respond to calls, the Cruise vehicles have blocked intersections or other avenues of approach. thus hindering emergency services from being able to respond to the crises appropriately. Moreover, the autonomous vehicles have struck pedestrians multiple times, and one incident, which occurred on October 2nd, 2023, wrote a dark chapter in the company's history. The pedestrian was trapped so deeply under the car, it required the jaws of life to free her so she could receive medical attention. Even after these incidents, as of May 2024, Cruise is returning their vehicles back to the public roads, this time with a human behind the wheel, with a plan to transition to supervise autonomous driving in the near future.
On the same day, General Motors CEO Mary Barra spoke about the technology's safety on the company's third quarter earnings call.
As Cruise continues to push the boundaries of what AV technology can deliver to society, safety is always at the forefront, and this is something they are continuously improving. In fact, it's our zero crash vision that keeps us pressing forward, and we know from the data that Cruise AVs are involved in far fewer collisions than human drivers.
General Motors from the years 2014 to really the present is having a widespread problem that causes customer vehicles to shake as if they are constantly driving on rumble strips, colloquially called the Chevy shake. Customers are experiencing vibrations while driving at high speeds, with some being more violent than others. General Motors dealers, unfortunately, are attempting to exploit this problem and shake down their customers for extra profit by telling customers they need new tires, new rims, rebalanced tires, U-joints, new brake pads, new rotors, and countless other costly repairs that GM refuses to cover. Some GM dealers went as far as to blame the customer for the Chevy shake by telling them they were not following proper maintenance intervals, and some dealers even stated customers are supposed to get their tires balanced every other oil change.
I would have to road force balance them?
It's balanced, yeah. The only thing that's covered is just an oil change and tire rotation, or basic maintenance.
Where in the manual does it say that I should be road force balancing my tires?
They recommend balancing every other oil change.
On the surface, it appears that countless GM drivers are being potentially scammed by GM. Some went as far as spending thousands of dollars in an attempt to remedy the problem. Here is one example out of many that you can find online. This customer did the following to fix the Chevy shake: rebalance old tires, free; purchase new tires, $1,200; alignment, $84; rebalance driveline, $160; Roadmaster shock absorbers, $500. These repairs costed this customer almost $2,000. Some paid an even higher price because they were told they needed a new transmission. Naturally, in typical dealership fashion, customers were left weeks on end without even given a loaner car or a rental car, even though the GM Courtesy Transportation Program allotted for it. Unfortunately, customers are still suffering through this issue, and some dealers are still blaming and not doing the right thing for GM owners. Cars.com did a report about a loyal GM customer of 50 years who was affected by this issue. The customer stated after he took his Sierra 1500 Denali to the dealer due to the Chevy shake, the dealer, did not write a repair order on the vibration, so I, the customer, requested documentation. 2 weeks later, I'm still waiting. No call and no repair order. Unsurprisingly, GM doesn't really have a fix for this. Their tactic seems to be along the lines of throwing parts at it. Ted Leopold, an attorney behind a class action lawsuit against GM, alleges GM knew about the issue as early as 2014, that they artificially inflated the purchase and lease price for the vehicles through a deliberate non-disclosure, and that the company was aware of the issue even after people began driving the cars off the dealership lots. Sadly, GM hasn't ceased the process of what appears to be self-destruction. We all know that the LS family of engines, which casts a wide net across the GM lineup, is arguably one of the best engineered V8s. Its versatility, reliability, and design has made it a highly sought-after motor, to the point where Jeep and other car enthusiasts swap out their stock motors and put in an LS, often referred to as the LS swap. Many experts in the community think Chevy shake and the active fuel management are connected in certain cases. It has been reported that the shake is, quote, amplified when the vehicle enters V4 mode via the V8's gas-saving cylinder deactivation technology. Whether true or not, the active fuel management, or as they call the new version, dynamic fuel management, is not popular within the community. This has nothing to do with people not wanting to save fuel. I think everyone wants that. But what is the trade-off by deploying cylinder deactivation?
While GM claims that there are fuel economy benefits to these systems, they are known to cause a number of problems on GM vehicles, with the most predominant problem being collapsed lifters and lifter failure. But they do cause a number of other problems like excessive oil consumption, which can lead to some more significant engine problems down the road, and they do create a couple performance-related issues as well.
General Motors first introduced its active fuel management cylinder deactivation system in 2005, with it primarily found in their 2007 to 2019 vehicles. AFM was inarguably the worst of the dynamic fuel management systems, which caused premature engine wear due to engine oil consumption, uneven cylinder wear, and lifter failure, usually with the end result being metal fragmentation being sent throughout the engine and it being a total loss. GM has since upgraded this system to dynamic fuel management, which in theory is an improvement as it has 17 different firing patterns instead of 4, and is somehow able to run the vehicle on a minimum of 2 cylinders. In the long run, many top mechanics and engineers do not believe this system is beneficial for customers. Not only will it degrade reliability and durability, but it will also shorten the engine's lifespan. This results in more costly repairs and ultimately sends the vehicle to the junkyard sooner. From a sustainability standpoint, this makes the entire system an oxymoron. What has happened to GM? They used to be the pinnacle of quality trucks, performance vehicles, and brought a new level of competition to the market. Many of you have written into me telling me about your pre-2008 GMs, and telling me that they are the epitome of reliability and durability and have well over 200,000 miles. I don't think we're going to see these numbers with new GM products, and if this is the case, how much money will be spent to achieve that milestone? Many think the transition to EVs is the answer. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. GM might tell you they are 100% committed to an all-EV future by 2035. But this is what I dub as corporate speak. They're telling you what you want to hear or what they think people want to hear.
I think we have to work together to find the right solutions, but General Motors, we believe in an all-electric future. We're working to a goal where we have 0 crashes, 0 emissions, and 0 congestion, and we've got to work together to create the infrastructure for us to have the products to drive the costs down, but I think it's very important for the globe.
If this really was the case, then why has General Motors invested, quote, $918 million in 4 U.S. manufacturing sites, including $854 million to prepare these facilities to produce the company's 6th-generation small block V8 engine, and an additional $64 million in Rochester, New York, and Defiance, Ohio, for castings and components to support EV production. Moreover, GM is slowing down production of their EVs by 33%. Pricing is certainly a factor, as the cheapest EV they sell is almost $42,000, and their Silverado price is so high, they do the same thing Ford does and force you to click through multiple stages to only discover that it is barely shy of $100,000. The same goes with the Hummer EV, which in my opinion is a cool vehicle in its own way, but in reality, GM has put out concept cars that would have had a better chance than a Hummer EV, which is 9,000 pounds, has horrible range, and costs as much as a house. So this poses the question that many economists have put forward. Was the events that occurred in 2008 and 2009 worth it? Organizations like Business Journal from the Wharton School of the University of Pennsylvania pose the same question. Instead of summarizing what they think, let me ask you this. Have you received a better product since? Does GM provide better customer service? Has GM solved your problem better than what they were solving pre-2008? When will the vicious cycle be over? When will our automakers once again provide quality vehicles that we deserve? Because with the prices you pay, the treatment you get, you deserve the best. Are we going to be stoic statues and just let this continue? Or are we going to demand change from them? The automotive industry is a very important piece of our world and interconnects with almost every sector of our lives. It's time to move forward and end looking at the past on an empty ceiling and encourage each other to be better and to do better.